the biggest competitor out there is do nothing. And now you have do nothing coupled with all of the noise of every other vendor that's knocking on their door that can do something better. So in many cases, what sellers are competing with is not even a direct competitor, but is another project. And it's never been more prevalent than it is today.
Oh yes, this is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. Today's show is sponsored by Ringmaster, on a mission to launch B2B podcasts that create relationships, generate revenue, and drive growth. Ringmasterlive.com. Bam. All right, the game is afoot. I am ready for today. I'm ready for the conversation today. We are about to get schooled. I'm about to learn some things. My brain, it's ready to get smoking. I'm excited. So I want to introduce my guest today. Listen, he's an absolute legend in the field. If you've met him before, you know he's incredibly brilliant in the world of sales. But here's a quote from him. I'm in the people business, but just happen to sell software, right? That's who we're about to pick the brain of today. Veteran sales leader and thought leader. He's a go-to-market powerhouse and a rainmaker. And I just say all around badass, decades of experience. He's been a first sales hire in taking a company from the 0 to 10 million ARR, built the whole East region from scratch for outreach. And he's been in the larger companies too. 6 years where I met him at Salesforce, where he's in sales leadership. So we are learning from the guy today. Fractional sales leader to funded tech companies, especially those who need to scale and do it quickly. Dave Rubinstein, welcome to the show, sir.
Oh, great to be here. Thanks for having me, Casey.
Man, you do a lot of things. You know a lot of things. I can't wait to learn this from you. So I'm going to pass you this thing. It's heavy, but you're in sales, so I know you're strong. Here we go. Okay, here he goes. Okay, Dave, take Thor's hammer. I'm going to grab that. You got it? Okay.
I got it.
All right, take Thor's hammer and smash for me some kind of marketing and sales myth, a bogus strategy, a misconception. Set the record straight once and for all.
I believe that founder-led sales is completely broken. You know, you wouldn't hand the keys to a car for someone who couldn't drive, right? You wouldn't give your 16-year-old the keys to a Ferrari and ask him to drive. So why are you giving someone who has in many cases zero experience selling and asking them to take the best possible leads that you can get and close them? You wouldn't bring in ask your salesperson, a founder who comes from a sales background. You wouldn't ask them to code. So why are you asking a technical founder to sell? It's not their sweet spot. They need to understand it. They need to be part of the process, but driving it seems to be wasteful.
Driving it wasteful. And I mean, I have dabbled in this. I'm a marketer who's done some founder-led sales, and man, it's like, I feel like, you're out in a rainstorm without a raincoat because things happen. I remember even being on sales calls being bewildered, but then someone had joined the call who was in sales and they said, oh no, this is what happened on that call. You were mirroring each other and that's why they liked you. All these things. And I had no idea because I was just sort of in it, completely unskilled. So why do you think we encounter this so much? Is it just out of necessity that founders just inevitably just find themselves doing the sales role?
Yeah, I mean, it's largely that's how the businesses are structured. Because if you have a founder who comes in, they don't know how to sell, who can do the selling for them, right? They're the first person there. You can't afford to hire a salesperson, or maybe premature to hire a salesperson.
Right.
So where are they going to get coaching from? They're investors. The likelihood that their investor came from a sales background is often pretty slim. So in many cases, it's out of necessity that founder needs to go out and hit the road and have conversations.
And to your point, though, it's like we're requiring the 16-year-old to drive a Ferrari, and I even wrote in my notes like, hell no, like no, you you may not even get to drive that when you're 30, let alone right now, completely unskilled. So, what? But I guess it's what's happening. What do we do? How do we fix this?
And not only are they doing it, but they're doing it on the best leads.
Right.
Because when a business first starts, you have all of your board, you have all of your personal relationships, and those people are the warmest leads to talk to. And so they're having their worst conversations, and they're practicing and they're learning on the opportunities that they have the best chance to close. So it really is not set up for success. Now, granted, there are some founders that came from more of a go-to-market background, and they can be successful.
Yeah.
But I think the ones that aren't have to really understand and say, hey, I'm happy to go in there. I'm happy to dive in and have the conversations, but I need help. And they have to be willing to ask for help, and they have to know where to go for help. But doing it on their own, I've sat through enough founder pitches, which are,
What are they like? What are they like? Paint the picture.
I mean, picture someone who has never sold a day in their life, and they're talking about a product that's a product designed for a go-to-market leader, and they've read that these are the 3 pain points that go-to-market leaders have,
Yeah.
and they say, and people call me DR. Hey, DR, are these pain points? Do these resonate with you? So they read off a script and they do these 3 things resonate with you. But it's really that they show no understanding in many cases of what a sales leader goes through. And they're in a particular market because it has a large TAM, but not because they have a visceral feeling about what is the pain that someone feels in that market. And it's really pretty clear.
And, and I could see that could convey a lack of sincerity, a lack of caring, a lack of every positive vibe you kind of need to build trust and to get them to like you and potentially, trust you with their tool. If you're not sending all the good vibes, then, I mean, that's raising questions, right? I mean, it's like when you're trying to swim and you have your feet vertical, just holding you back.
Yeah, I think it's a great call out. In the last 60 days, I've talked to 40 different founders.
Dang.
And so it's very clear in those conversations who has a background in sales or has been close to the customer and who hasn't. And the ones that haven't focus a lot on features, and they focus a lot on how what they offer is better than what's out there. And what they don't realize is the majority of buyers out there, they're focused on buying painkillers, not vitamins. They don't care that something is a little bit better than what they have. In order for someone to make a switch, and with all the things that they're focused on and all the opportunities that they have, a little bit better just doesn't cut it. And so I think a lot of those founders who are walking in, yes, the tool that they've created is a little bit better. But what they don't realize is that the buyer who's looking at their offering that's a little bit better has met with 10 other vendors who have something else that they offer that's a little bit better. And we don't have the bandwidth to buy, to implement 10 different vendors.
Right.
And so as a result, we end up doing nothing, and we stay put. And today's founder who's never sold before isn't aware that that's how the buyer is thinking. They're not thinking about implementation and how we're thinking about, well, hey, if I do this, I've got to pull some resources to implement this, and that will mean I won't be able to do another project. So they're not as aware sometimes of trade-offs that we need to make.
Yeah, the trade-offs. It's interesting. You mentioned the seller not being aware of all the other things not product related. I remember having conversations with people selling like PEOs, like employment, services where your employees are their employees, and then they kind of like group sell you insurance, like a Gusto or a TriNet. It was one of their competitors, and they would call and they'd say, "Hey, switch over. We'll save you $100 on your insurance here and there." But they never thought about it's a pain in the ass to do insurance anyways. Like if I'm talking about moving my entire team to another insurance, packet? Do they get to keep the same? Like, it's such a headache. I don't even want to think about it. So I've like never shopped them because none of the conversation has ever been like, oh, hey, we got this easy implementation thing that would like produce that for you. Like, okay, well, maybe we'll shop it now. But no, it's always the headache of, God, this sounds like a nightmare to try to, move from this one platform to another. I'll just, to your point, do nothing.
Yeah. And that's what you run into. And that's the biggest competitor out there is do nothing. And now you have do nothing coupled with all of the noise of every other vendor that's knocking on their door that can do something better. So in many cases, what sellers are competing with is not even a direct competitor, but is another project. And it's never been more prevalent than it is today, where if I'm a executive at a company and I know we have to do AI, there's only so many AI projects that I could do at once. So while your project might be AI forecasting, which is important, someone else might have an AI prospecting, which will drive pipeline. That might be higher priority for me. So even though you have a better forecasting tool, if that doesn't become higher on my priority list, it's not going to get done. And sometimes folks aren't aware of that when they come in guns blazing, showcasing feature after feature after feature.
Yeah, the internal prioritization. Hey, does it line up with what the annual goals are? We had this goal to really launch this new product. Does it line up with that whatsoever? No. It almost, to your point, becomes a vitamin. It's nice to have. Well, that's cool. Now my vitamin D is a little bit higher, but how do I? You can't live on vitamin D.
Yeah, the other thing that most folks miss is they focus on the problem,
Okay.
which is great, right? So they'll say, hey, they'll identify this is the problem that we solve, right? And everybody does that, and that's kind of sales 101.
Yeah.
The thing that most people do is or don't do is they don't understand, well, what's changed to make solving that problem now matter. So if you think about, a good example would be pipeline. I might be a salesperson and I go in and I identify that they have a pipeline problem. And I think, well, that's great. You have a pipeline problem. I have a product that will solve that. Right. So great. We can meet their needs. This is a great sales site. The challenge is that pipeline problem has existed for years. And sometimes when a problem exists for years, you become numb to it and you have workarounds and you've learned to accept it. So there's no urgency in solving it. So the question that the good sellers always need to ask is, what's changed to make solving that now a priority?
Wow.
Because if nothing's changed, then you're going to have a really hard time selling something. So an example of something that changed is, well, we just missed our number and the board is all over us. We just hired a new VP of sales who's focused on this metric. We just got a new competitor in the marketplace and they're beating us more than they have than we've gotten beaten in the past.
Got it.
So you're looking for to identify something that's caused a change to make that problem really have feeling and something that you have to solve right now.
That's fascinating. And this is not what's changed in the ecosystem. This is just what's changed in their organization to make it matter or make it possible. People just assume it's just not solvable. We've lived with it. We'll continue to live with it. You got to kind of like shake them up a little bit.
If nothing's changed, why would you do anything differently?
Well, don't you want to solve the problem?
Well, but we've lived with it for so long. Think about, think about, maybe, for guys like us, maybe you play sports and you got a bad shoulder and you realize, okay, well, I've got a bad shoulder. So I have my golf swing is a little bit different than it should be. And I have a workaround.
Yeah.
And it's fine. And I've been doing it for so long. It's all I know. So I'm not looking to get it fixed so I can take a regular swing. This is how I do it. And that's how people think about their business. If you have a workaround and it's fine, there are always bigger problems that you can solve.
Got it. So you need to make this either solving a bigger problem or is that or just, yeah, I feel like I haven't really given this credence as much as everything else. Problem solution, how easy it is, but like why?
Yeah. Yeah. Why you have to be able to answer why you, why now?
Why now? So what is the solution for founder-led sales? If it's broken, I mean, I believe you because I'm experiencing it and hearing it at the same time. Then what's the solve and why now?
Well, I think the first thing is that a founder has to acknowledge that they need help. And the why now is, if I launched a company 5 years ago, there might be, you know, 2 or 3 other competitors in the space and so that was my competition. Now I might launch a company and there might be 10x that. There might be 20 or 30 companies that look like that. And so as a seller, you have to be that much better, right? And so that's what's changed. What's changed is the landscape is significantly more competitive. What's changed is there are more places for a CFO to spend dollars than ever before. There are more solutions being pitched. And so as a result of the fact that dollars are getting spread among many, many, many more companies, it means that companies aren't growing as fast, right? There are not as many companies crushing it. And as a result of that, you need you need to execute better on the opportunities that you have, and you can't afford to miss because you might not get as many chances as you would have gotten in the past. So that's really what's changed.
Right. Execute better. And there's only so many man, it's hard enough to get the opportunities you have now to fumble them, especially when they're in the door. I mean, there's a whole other conversation on the marketing side to drum up more conversations and more sales calls, but that's going to be one of the lower numbers on your funnel. And you need to increase that conversion rate. And I often find like a lot of with founders, I know I'm guilty of this sometimes too, is I'm just like super passionate about the thing and I'll just sort of like try to passion them into buying it. But I know that's not a repeatable sales process that I can ever, pull a sales rep in to kind of duplicate. I'm just doing this like crazy founder passionate thing, come with me on this wild ride.
Yeah, and that's very common,
Yeah.
and that can be enough in some cases. But you're coming from closer to a sales background, so that's a more natural motion for you.
Sure.
If you spent the majority of your professional life coding and less time in front of customers, the way that you show passion may allow you to connect differently with an end buyer than someone who doesn't spend as much time in external facing roles.
Oh man, so true. Yeah. I'm only a partial computer nerd. If you go full computer, yeah. Like how do they right. So, and these are all just crutches. So, okay. So founder says, all right, I acknowledge I need help. I feel like this is almost like a founder 12-step program. Like what's next? What's the recipe for the solution for the founder?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that the founder will go to the board, and they'll say, okay, I'm ready. I know founder led sales is what I need to do, but I need help.
Yeah.
And so there's the potential for training. I think at that point, that's one option. There's the potential to, in addition to having someone who can do some coaching, you can get some deal support help. So in any case, a founder should have someone that they can call, that they can say, hey, I'm working on this deal. I got a meeting coming up. I'm meeting with the decision maker. This is not just, they're not just going to buy because I'm the CEO.
Right.
I need to understand where I'm going to take this. I need to understand what the potential objections are.
Yeah.
I need to understand how to set up the value, and before we even talk about price, like there's some things that founder needs to learn how to do, and having someone who can coach them on it, either prepping them for the meeting or joining them on the meeting, I think is really important. And then you start to think about things like hiring. So eventually, when that founder is separating from them doing everything to bring in a team on board, that founder has never hired salespeople before. So how do they know what to look for? That founder has never hired a sales leader before. And in many cases, what they're looking for that sales leader to do is completely unrealistic. So they want that sales leader to come in and manage a team of two and have and act as a player coach. But they want that same person to have the skill set to scale the team to 30 to 50 sellers. Well, guess what? The person that has the experience running a team of 30 to 50, they have built comp plans, they have rolled out tech stacks, they have onboarded at scale. They've done all those things. While they were doing those things, guess what they weren't doing? They weren't closing deals.
Right.
And so finding someone who is able to do both is very much like finding a unicorn. So what they really need to do is focus on what they need right now, not worry about hiring a VP, but hire someone that can help them close deals. And that can either be a seller, or they can go in and they can get some fractional support for someone who can actually coach the sellers, because the CEO or the founder is really not the right person to be coaching an AE, and that doesn't set them up for success.
What an incredible point. I mean, just imagining it as you're describing it, your tech founder, great at sussing out if that, how good is that person at Python, or C# or you name it, whatever the tool is, how is their back end database, blah, blah, blah. But man, hiring, I've heard a couple sales reps, and gosh, is it like a completely different animal? And I maybe know like 1% of it now at this point. It is such a different feel. And you wouldn't expect your programmer or like your sales rep to go program Python. So why would you expect, your tech founder to go hire? Man, it is like a different language,
Yeah, and what they end up looking for is often wrong. So in many cases, a founder who's never interviewed a salesperson before looks for polish, and they have someone in front of them. They're like, wow, they're really polished. And I read somewhere that it's good to hire athletes. So, we have someone who's polished, and they looks from the resume, they played a sport in college. This is a home run. We should hire this person.
Fancy dresser.
Right. And they just, I liked them. They were outgoing and engaging, and their customers will like them. And they said all the right things about wanting to prospect. And so they're not equipped to go deeper. They don't know kind of the harder questions to ask, or the things that will help them assess whether this person is really the right fit for the organization.
What's your number one question to ask a potential sales rep in the hiring process?
It's changed over time. I think I used to look for hustle.
Okay.
And is this a person that's got a motor?
Yeah.
I think what I find now in the new world is curiosity outranks hustle, right? So if you think about what was the book, Strategy Eats What for Breakfast? What was it?
Oh yeah. Strategy eats, is it execution for breakfast? Execution eats strategy for breakfast. Is that it?
Right. It was one of those. You know what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Execution eats strategy for breakfast. Best laid plans can fail if not implemented. Yeah.
Right. So this, to me, it's like curiosity eats hustle for breakfast. At the end of the day, you can't hustle enough in this world, in this kind of current environment, to outrun the rate of technology. And the person that's curious, that's going to figure out how they can use AI to be part of every single day to make them more efficient, the person that's not doing that can't make up the difference by working harder. And so what I want is, I want to know when I interview someone, whether they're a seller or a leader, I want to know what is the role that AI plays in your day to day, and how are you staying on top of it to be better for tomorrow?
Wow. How are you staying on top of it? Find out if they've got the curiosity, or if they're just kind of hiding in the sand, hoping AI will pass.
Well, no, I think there are a lot of people that go to Chat GPT and they feel like they're doing AI, right? Because they, it's just like if you go back and you'll remember this, if you go back, 20 years, people were just starting to Google,
Yeah.
right? And oh yeah, I Google. Yeah, and it was just like, oh, well, you should just Google that. And you felt like you were knowledgeable because that was something that you could do.
Yeah.
This is really the same thing, which is people like, oh yeah, I use Chat GPT, but that's really kind of the tip of the iceberg. And are you kind of linking things to it? And are you starting to think about agentic and how you can automate things and have workflows that are consistent and that, how are you doing that across your business versus just a one-off query
Right.
to write an email?
Man, what a difference between the two. And you're right. And there's no amount of hustle that can keep up. You may feel like it for a while, but eventually they're pushing forward and then you're toast. You're toast. It is a lot of what you're describing. Is it that fractional sales leader role? Is that kind of like the hybrid for the tech founder these days?
Yeah, what we're seeing now is there's a real increase in fractional leadership, and
Yeah.
it's for a number of different reasons. The rate of change is like nothing we've ever seen, and what someone needs today could be very different in 3 months or 6 months. And so the idea of hiring someone on a fractional basis de-risks it for both parties. On the candidate side, I think we've all been in roles where, and it's happening more and more, where you walk into a company and the job is this today, and a week from now, the job changes. And so in that, I mean, I had a job, it's probably couple of years ago. I took a job at Meta, right? And you
Yeah.
think, oh, okay, Meta, a lot going on. I had a team of 50, and 2 weeks after I started, the Mark Zuckerberg year of efficiency, my team went from 50 down to 8.
Cheers.
And so things change, and that's okay. But sometimes if you do things on a fractional basis, no matter how much you research a company, you got a better sense of what it looks like. And the company also gets a better sense of you. Because again, they can interview you, but they don't know how well you're going to adapt to the change that's going to happen, that invariably will happen. And so as a result, fractional is starting to be bigger. And the needs of the company are changing faster than ever. Today, we need somebody that can close, that can close deals. But you know what? This business could really take off in the next 3 or 6 months if our technology catches on. And now we got to scale. And the person that did the first part may not be the right person for the second piece. And that's where fractional offers you a little more optionality, where the fractional leader can potentially help you hire for the leader that you need. So there's a lot more flexibility that it creates.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Man, I think flexibility is really what's key these days to just stay. If you lock yourself into a plan, it's like the old ads, agile. Let's lock ourselves into a plan and be stuck with it. Spend a lot of money.
Yeah, I think you and I have both been through the years where growth was driven by headcount, right? It was just, okay, you want to grow? How many salespeople do you want to hire? Multiply it by $1 million per salesperson, and that's what your growth is.
There
What
you
your
go.
growth is going to work. And now we've entered a world where efficiency is really kind of the most important thing. And the days of having a team of, let's say, 8 people and only 2 people hitting their number, but those 2 people way over delivering and getting the business to their number, those days are gone. And rather than having a team of 8 with 2 that are efficient, you might have a team of 3,
Yeah.
and you're going to figure out which 2 out of 3 are going to make it. And then once you get the 2 that you have working, you hire a third, and you hire a fourth. But there aren't as many companies that are scaling their sales team without really knowing that they have a system that's going to make folks successful.
When it comes to staying in the loop with things and your own curiosity, like where do you go? How do you like to learn? What sources do you use?
So yeah, I mean, lately my biggest source are conversations with founders. So I think, as I mentioned, I've had 40 conversations over the last 60 days. And so I am constantly scheduling calls with founders. And it's really the conversation, and the reason I'm talking to them is I want to learn, and I want to see what's out there and what the latest and greatest technology is, because I know that there are companies out there that the majority of people have never heard of that are doing some unbelievable things. They might just not have the same level of marketing that a few of the companies that everybody's talking to, talking about on LinkedIn. They just don't have that, but they've got really smart founders and they're doing amazing things. And so I'm reaching out to those folks and I'm scheduling conversations and I'm saying, hey, look, I want to learn about what you're doing. I'll have clients that I can connect you with and would be interested in that. And it makes me more valuable because I'm able to introduce my clients to companies that they never would have met on their own. And in exchange for doing that, I'd be happy to spend some time giving you my perspective, a true go-to-market perspective on your business and, how I might position things or kind of work through some of the challenges they're working through. So it ends up being a kind of a win-win situation. And I have found, many, many, many founders are excited about having those conversations. And it's a lot of fun for me to, kind of stay tip of the spear and learn what everybody's doing.
Yeah, what that feels like the source these days in the future, actually getting out and talking to, and many of these people, I'm sure, might become future clients of yours. So it's very much a mutual conversation. I mean, they may then just take it and run with it, right? They may turn into clients.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's absolutely right. I have a belief, and I was reading something I think it was a quote from the CEO of Ford, and he was talking about I think it was the term he used was the essential economy.
Mm.
And the essential economy was anything that needs to be moved, fixed, or built, that doesn't go away. I would add cared for to that as well. So you start to think about, medicine and doctors and nurses. And
Yeah.
I think that doesn't go away. And, I was trying to think about, if I were to simplify that, the way I think about the jobs that will go away, the jobs that will go away, or the majority that will go away, will be anything that you could do in your pajamas. Right. So start to think about that and start to think about a job. Hey, is that something you can do in your pajamas? Well, then maybe that goes away. And so as I think about my own career and my kids and people that I mentor, I think the one thing that I say is really, you have to, one, embrace technology, because you're either sitting at the table figuring out how to use it,
Yeah.
or you're on the plate and you're being eaten and it's being done to you.
Yeah.
So you really want to think about, like, how do I make sure I'm leveraging it? And the one thing that it can't replace are the face-to-face relationships. So that's where the pajamas come in, and you gotta get comfortable putting on clothes and going out and seeing people, because at the end of the day, that's going to be the last thing that has the potential to get replaced. And that's the place where, at the end of the day, I think people can add the most value.
Boom. Dude, who are you? That's my next question. Who are you? How do you know these things? Take me back in time. Little Dave days, little DR. Did you know you're going to be in sales? Were you selling things at like 4 years old? What was it like?
No. I mean, I didn't grow up and dream about being a sales guy. And my first experience in sales was almost right out of college. I sold timeshares,
Wow.
which was a brutal
Brutal.
entry into sales, right? Like, I mean, it was literally, I worked from 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock every day. We had BDRs who would schedule appointments in hotels. Someone would get a free weekend for listening to a 30-minute pitch. And I'd have 30 minutes to get them to commit to spending $7,000.
Man.
And so, it was, I was very successful at it, but I didn't enjoy it. And I became the closer, and I was promoted, and I was doing really well, but it wasn't fulfilling for me. And it almost turned me off to sales completely because that became my perception of sales.
Sure.
And so I thought, you know what, I want to be a brand manager. And so I went back to grad school. I got an MBA. I came out. I was a brand manager, and then I moved out to San Francisco, and I worked for a startup, and I was a product manager, and a senior product manager, and a director of product management. And I had this moment in my career that was a real inflection point. And the head of I used to go on all the sales calls.
Sure.
As a product manager. And I was kind of like the smart generalist. The sales guys liked having me go on the calls. And I felt good because I connected with customers and I felt like I was selling, even though the reality wasn't.
Right. Totally.
But because I didn't own the number. And so I did that. One day we hire a head of sales, a new head of sales. And he fired the old guy and he fired the whole sales team. And he replaced the sales team. Everybody was either a Stanford MBA, a McKinsey consultant, or both. And what happened was I stopped getting invited on sales calls because there was less of a need for a smart generalist because the McKinsey consultant could know the questions to ask.
Sure.
So I realized that the part of my job that I really liked was being in front of customers. And I was neither a Stanford MBA or a McKinsey consultant. So I wasn't going to get a sales job there. So that was kind of one realization. The second thing that I realized in that role was I thought the head of sales was crazy because everybody that he was hiring was, I thought, smarter than he was. And when I watched him, 2 years later, he became the CEO.
Wow.
And so, I learned at that point too, it wasn't about having people who being smarter than the people that work for you, but bringing in people that will raise the bar. And if you're surrounding yourself with really smart people, people are going to figure out, hey, this DR guy must not be a total idiot because he's built a pretty good team. So I'm in this role, and now I'm a product guy realizing that that's not what I want to do. And I'm stuck 5 days a week as a product manager. And I realized at that point, I was like, this isn't what I'm meant to do. And then what happens? I get fired.
Yeah.
I was in the role for 3 years, and you know what? It wasn't the right fit for me.
Sure.
And I appreciated the honesty, and it was great. And it gave me a chance to find out what I really wanted to do. And so what I did was I reached out to the CEO of a competitor, and I pitched myself as a sales guy.
Wow.
And I said, I love your business. I want to come sell for you. And 3 weeks later, I was in my first kind of more SaaS-like job. And I did okay in my first year. And my second year, I was the top seller in the company. And that's when I was like, you know what? This is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Click. Yeah. If you fit, and the grooves fill in, you're like, okay, now we're cooking. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And then, but tell me about that transition, because I know it can be really hard if you're just a fantastic sales rep to get into leadership, because it's like a different job, isn't it? To manage a sales rep versus being one.
Yeah. You think it's easy. And I think one of the kind of misunderstandings that many sellers have when they want to go into leadership is they think, oh, it's just coaching. I coach people and I help them close deals. Right. So that's all the stuff that they want to do. And what they don't think about is they don't think about the performance management, and they don't think about the challenges that come along, and they don't think about the pressure, and they think about them doing all the selling, but they don't realize that if you don't build the right system and you don't have the right process, you can't necessarily out hustle the number. As one seller, you can run around like crazy and hustle and get to the number, but the bigger your team gets, the harder it is to outwork the problem. And they don't always realize that. So it is very much a learning experience going from an individual contributor to a leader.
And not everyone can do it. I've definitely bumped into people who are just like content to just make $1 billion being an amazing sales rep,
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
I think for me, there's something really rewarding about watching others and contributing to others' growth.
Mm.
And I think particularly as I've progressed in my career, I think I take greater joy in watching people do things that they've never accomplished before and watching them close the biggest deal that they've ever closed before. Or when I get a phone call or text from someone who used to be on my team who says, "Hey, I'm now running a team. And remember that thing that we worked on together? I'm doing that now with my team and it's working really well." Like that, there's just a different level of pride that I feel and excitement. And I think for most leaders and most of my peers that I talk to, I think they really enjoy watching people be successful. In addition to closing deals, but I think you start to realize that your impact can be much greater as a leader than it can be as an individual contributor, and that's kind of cool.
That is cool. It scales your awesomeness. Ideally, it's like directing a play. Like many people then become great at sales, not just you. Bit of a hypothetical question for you next, if you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay. You see, I may or may not have a time machine over here in New Hampshire. So you come visit, right? Do an event at Boston, customer visit, come hang out, we get some lobster, some beer. It's in the backyard. Okay. So we use a special time machine and it goes back in time and you get to meet yourself a couple days after graduating. You just left school. You got that shiny new BA and you're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. What do you tell that, Dave? What do you tell that DR?
I mean, for me, and this is everybody's different.
Yeah.
I wish that I went to a place like Salesforce earlier in my career because that did a couple things for me. I mean, one is in the 6 years that I was there, I reported to 6 different leaders. And those 6 different leaders all had vastly different styles. They've all been, wildly successful. I mean, one is the president of Databricks. One is the CRO of Box. I mean, they're in big roles. And so I was very fortunate to get an opportunity to work under great leaders. And with each one, I was kind of had an opportunity to watch how they ran the team. And there were things that they did that I really liked that became part of my style. And there were things that said, you know what, I don't know if this transfers for me or feels like me. I'm not going to use it. And so I was able to develop an operating rhythm over those 6 years at Salesforce that really has served me well. So I think that was the first thing.
Yeah.
The second thing that I got from Salesforce was this concept of hearts and minds. And if you think about the way Salesforce runs, everyone's on a monthly quota. In order to run a team with a monthly quota, if you go hard every single day, every single month, you burn people out. No one makes their quota 12 months in a row. But as a team, you got to hit your number. And so understanding when do you push, when do you pull back, really important. What people don't realize about a place like Salesforce is they think, it must be easy to recruit sellers because everybody wants to work there. What they don't realize is that every year you have to promote roughly 30 to 40% of your team. So they leave you. And there are many, many sales teams within Salesforce. And the sellers who are talented have all the power. So they can choose the teams that they go to. So you want to be, in order to be effective as a leader, you need to be a talent magnet. You can't rely on the great people that you have on your team because they're going to get promoted on. You need to be someone that people hear about and go, I want to work on DR's team. I hear he develops his people. They get promoted. They do well. They have money. And so that was, those were 2 things that I learned. I think the third thing that I would say that I would tell my younger self is that the brand where you work really matters. And I will tell you, even though I left Salesforce now 5 years ago, people still look at me as someone who had their sales passport stamped at Salesforce. And there's a level of credibility that comes from that no one can take away from you. And I think that's really valuable. I did put in my time. And I think today, a lot of the folks want to move up fast, and everybody's a little bit different. But for me, going to a place like Salesforce earlier in my career would have been, is what I would do if I did it all over again.
I love that. Natural follow-up to that question is, do you think you would listen to yourself?
I think I would.
Yeah.
I think I would. I think back then I really didn't know. I didn't know that I wanted to be in sales. I didn't know I wanted to be in leadership. I think I was just kind of just figuring it out. So I think that there's something kind of cool when you get to a certain point in your career and you're doing what you were meant to be doing.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I found it, because I really find what I do very rewarding.
Yeah. Hell yeah. That's cool. And if not, you would have used some sales techniques to convince yourself. Come here, kid. I want to tell why this and why now. Get over to Salesforce. Let's go. Hey, if people want to contact you, reach out, either work with you or just connect with you on the professional level, or hear about those conversations you've been having, or mentorship, any of the things, where do you want them to reach out to you?
Yeah, just reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can find me. It's just Dave Rubinstein, and DM me. That's probably the simplest thing. So if you're a seller listening to this and you've got questions, or you're looking for a mentor or something like that, DM me. If you're a founder and you got to hire a sales leader and you don't know what to do, or you're working on deals and you don't know what to do, or you're thinking about building out a sales org and you have some questions, just DM me. Or even if you just want to demo your product, I'd love to take a look and see if I can help. So that's kind of the best way to get me.
Yeah, 100%. And we'll put all those links. We'll put a link to that profile in the show notes. People just click on through and reach out. Don't be a weirdo, but say where you heard. I heard you on the podcast, and give that a shout out. But man, Dave, thank you so much for coming on here. I knew it was going to be a masterclass. It certainly was. There's so many things for me to think about here when it comes to sales and founder-led sales here. So, man, I appreciate you.
No, I appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and for those listening, if you freaking learned something, I know you did, because I have 2 pages of notes over here, front and back, then share this with someone else. 1 person, 2 people, 9,000 is cool. But do you have a founder? If you're a marketer listening and you have a founder, you don't have that fractional sales role, man, get Dave on the team. You need that backup, and you guys can figure this thing out with your founder so that they don't have to bear the brunt of this, especially if you're marketing or sending leads left and right. Might be sending them to the wrong person. So definitely reach out. And with that, Dave, thanks again.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, everyone. This has been a crazy cool, very inspiring episode of the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will see you all next time.